Test, test. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Okay. All right, welcome to the space. My name's Zach, this is Jeff. We are part of the co-founding members here of the space. We built the tech stack for the space. Whose first time is it here in the space? Just as a show of hands. Oh, wow. Most people, awesome. Joey, how are we doing in the recording? Is looking good back there? Audio coming through okay? Somebody give me a thumbs up on the live stream. We are live streaming this. So the space, if it's your first time here, we are Denver's Bitcoin hub. Called many things, but that's my favorite. And we are a community member-based facility and group, organization. I don't know what other words you want to throw in there. Movement maybe is a good one too, but we were started by a group of guys in the Denver Bitcoin community. We used to have this Denver Bit Devs meetup, and just like this event, more and more people started showing over the years, and eventually we got enough funds. We actually started like fundraising to open this venue, and so now this is kind of our home as an organization, and we're here to teach people about Bitcoin and the principles of Bitcoin and all the other things that we do here. We have an art gallery, we have all kinds of social events, and we're just getting started. We've been open only a year, and we're working on our 501c3 designation. So soon we'll be a tax-deductible education foundation, and that'll be really like I think the next kind of level up for next leg for our organization. Jeff, do you want to like quickly introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Jeff Bride, and I am basically the sysadmin guy here at the space. It's a lot of fun. Helping out Zach and the rest of the team has just been a phenomenal opportunity to get involved and contribute back. So this has been a personal love of mine for the last couple of years, and just grateful to be part of this whole Bitcoin movement, and specifically here in Denver, and helping out how I can.
Have you guys seen the dependency meme? Have any of you seen that? There's like this whole stack of infrastructure, and then there's like this tiny little peg. That's Jeff at the space. He keeps the entire ship from blowing up, and we're going to talk about some of those blowups or potential blowups that we've experienced self-hosting. And as a Bitcoin focused community, obviously self-hosting and running our own code and a lot of the principles that Bitcoiners care about, we founded our organization from. So some of those are having control over our own data, and some of those are privacy and low time preference, long-term thinking. And so we'll talk about kind of how and why we built a self-hosted infrastructure stack for our small business. And we are a business. Although we are a nonprofit, we cannot really lose money or we won't be around too long. So we do have to sort of operate it like a real business and have the learning lessons of other real businesses. So yeah, my name's Zach, this is Jeff. If one of the services that we run here is poll.denver.space. If you can humor me, if you can pull up poll.denver.space on your phone, and then it's gonna just have a big screen that says enter the hashtag. This is actually like a live polling Q&A tool that we're running in our basement. So you could pay like $10 a month to have this service at Kahoot or whatever else it is. But in this case, we're paying $0 a month. So this code, when you enter it, is just host. And you'll see you can actually ask questions anonymously. So if you want to ask, if you don't want to have, sometimes we get some dicey questions in here, and people don't want to necessarily put their hand up. We also will have a microphone to ask questions later if you want to, but if you just like are in the middle of the presentation, we're not going to take questions during it. So just like put the question in there, and then we'll come back to it at the end during Q&A. This presentation was vibe coded with some AI, with Claude Code. Kind of a first violation of our principles, because Claude is not our own AI. Hopefully we'll get to that, but I want to talk about why we're not doing that necessarily yet and some of the roadblocks and trade-offs. So anyway, on with the show. This is a way over-engineered like React app, which is just like I could have just used a PDF presentation, but I like the little animated thing. So who thinks they know what the cloud is? Where is it? Where's the cloud? It's not in the sky. It's not. It's, yeah, pretty much. It's probably Houston, Texas, or Dallas, if I'm being honest. That's where most of the big data centers in the U.S. are, and all over that southern area, because electricity is cheap. We'll talk about how much electricity is the #1 factor here. Self-hosting, what we do is we run the server in our basement. That's what self-hosting is. It doesn't sound as sexy, though, when you say we run a server in our basement. And it's kind of dusty down there. We'll do a tour after. This is going to be cool. We got a field trip. So self-hosting means you run the hardware, and you run the code, and you control the data. So contrast that to a hosted service. Think of things like Google or Dropbox or Proton. These are hosted services. Facebook is a hosted social network. There are lots of things that there are self-hosted sort of equivalents or comparables to when you look at different services that you might need as a business. And when you're considering that, I mean, one of the big things you want to think about is the cost. So if we use a monthly subscription, you know, we're paying that. And as a brand new organization, when we were starting out as the space, we didn't really have that much money. Like we still are kind of, we're still kind of in that spot. So the idea is that you eliminate a lot of your monthly recurring costs that you don't really notice right at first, but fast forward 2-3 years and you've built your entire business operations on all these essential services, and now you've got a $500, $600, $700 a month software bill that can actually eat into your profit margins, and it doesn't really ever get better. It only gets worse because these monthly costs of software, guess what? They're also facing inflation, and better believe they're going to pass that on to their customers. So you do have to buy the server up front and like all your hardware, and so there's a big upfront predictable one-time cost versus a variable monthly bill that kind of keeps growing and growing. From a control perspective, so if you're running your own self-hosted service stack as a business, you have control. So you're not like stuck, let's say laws change and government decides or business decides they don't want to service you anymore. Too bad, you're stuck. You have no recourse. You can like file a complaint and be like, please restore our YouTube channel, but they may just not. So that's the trade-offs of having a hosted service. Speed is another one. So if you're in this building and you try to access anything like on our Denver space, it's super fast because it's not even really going to the internet. Like it's just a local connection. And then sometimes, you know, the standards too. So like we aren't locked into our stack. A lot of these are like very open source compatible databases or file formats, for what you will. So we can kind of move off these services relatively easy and aren't locked in with vendors. Let's see. For our why. So again, I already kind of talked about that, but the big thing is like, it's just like the Bitcoiner way, right? Like it's low time preference, long-term strategic thinking. So we spent probably, I don't know, Dave, you helped me build it. Like it was like what, $2,000, $3,000, maybe $3,000 we spent up front on the server between buying it on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, getting all the, yeah. I mean, it was more than like 1,000 for sure. It was like a couple thousand, and in Bitcoin, yeah, time value of money too on that opportunity cost. It was definitely Bitcoin. Bitcoin was definitely lower when we built this server. We did not factor that into our break even. Joey got me. But you know, the idea was that like we just wanted to have this predictable cost one time up front. And then obviously like from a sovereignty perspective, Bitcoin is all about sovereignty. And so we wanted to control our data. We also have Bitcoin customers. Like all of our customers are our members and the people who donate to the space. And they don't want us hosting their data in Google Drive or whatever. So that was the thing that we kind of had to make sure we were aligned with our members from the very beginning. And it was also like like full transparency, it was a very good talking point when we were trying to raise money from the community and be like, hey, like we're building this Bitcoin hub. It's not going to be owned by one guy and all of the data is just stored in Google Drive. Like we're going to be a nonprofit. We're going to host all our own services. And it made it feel a lot more like a community resource and a community effort instead of just a couple people that were kind of doing the initial work. And then, yeah, predictability. So we don't have any monthly bills other than like our electrical bill and our internet bill. And we don't have to upgrade all the time. But we'll talk about like when you might want to or what happens if you don't. And my favorite part, outages. So, you know, sometimes like AWS goes down and everybody's business is on fire. I mean, this literally happened like this month. Not ours, all our stuff was fine. There have been times when our stuff was down and AWS wasn't though. So we'll talk about the challenges next. Jeff, you want to just chime in and say anything?
We know who to blame when there is problems here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, double-edged sword there. So some of the wins, like we for sure save hundreds of dollars per month in software costs. Hundreds of dollars every single month, and we can quickly make updates. We can quickly deploy changes. I think like we were hosting an event, and I was like, Jeff, I really want to have like a polling tool for this event. And he was like, oh yeah. And like 15 minutes later, we just had it. Like it was just done. And boom, you're on it now. So we can really deploy things much faster. We don't have to make user accounts. Our first and last name and home address and stuff aren't in these databases when we sign up for services. And also sharing credentials is a lot easier because it's all local and we don't need to like make specific user addresses for each person. So there's actually like a ton of different, like we were starting out, I think there was a few things. We started out kind of with Nextcloud and a few others, but I was actually surprised at, I mean, we've grown our list to, we got like 20 different things that we're running. And there's a lot more that kind of aspirationally we would like to run. So there's a surprising amount of drop-in cloud replacements that you can actually self-host. And the list is growing because there's certainly an open source movement that's happening. Security, so we control the data. Like Jeff said, if it's down, we know who to blame. If we have a data breach, we know who to blame, right? So that is some of the trade-offs, but it's also a win because it's in our control, and that's kind of the Bitcoin ethos, is like we want to control the controllables. And then another win is that we have so many talented people in this community through the space. We are like a very much tech-focused, tech-forward community and have been blessed to have volunteers like Jeff and Dave who helped me set the server up, and Sam and Tyler and Dylan. There's so many people that have added different parts of our tech stack with their own expertise. And that's been really cool to see. So like, if you have a diverse business where you maybe have a couple different people with different skill sets, that might be a reason to start considering self-hosting, especially if you have one of those people being a sysadmin, because that's like the most necessary role. Pain points. So this is probably the least comfortable part of self-hosting. And I would say if you don't want to self-host, it's going to be because if you think you shouldn't self-host, it's going to be because of the reasons on this slide. So the upfront cost was something. It was a couple $1,000. Sometimes that is actually like if you're really, really early, maybe it does make sense to start out with a cloud because if you have to build this whole server, you have to get an IP address that's a static, or you need to do some networking stuff that Jeff will talk about. So there is an upfront cost financially. And with as Joey pointed out, because we spent that money in Bitcoin, there's also an opportunity cost of that upfront cost. There's, and there's also like a million things where you're like, we'll do that later when we get more money, So it's a never-ending kind of chasing upgrades. There's a big learning curve. So again, Jeff's the glue that keeps this all from falling apart. Thank you, Jeff. You're like the admin, the network architect, the on-call repair guy, the hardware expert, the security expert, all of that stuff. You have to do all of that. So if you don't want to do that, maybe that I would say is probably the best reason not to self-host. But I want to challenge that and say that it's not as difficult as you think, and it's also getting easier. And we're working to make that easier by open sourcing some of our documentation.
And Zach, on that point, I would say that if you were to attempt the equivalent of what we're doing here at the space and what we self-host, if you were to attempt that on Azure or Google Cloud Platform or Amazon, the learning curve is about the same. So it's all relative.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great documentation for open source stuff. Maybe more than like the closed source ecosystem, or maybe you're not so dependent on just like their docs, right? Other people can contribute to it. Another pain point is backups. So like if you mess it up or you lose this data, especially if it's like critical business data, that's a big problem. So you really need to think through how you're going to create a solid backup structure. And we actually have a whole slide about backups because it's that important. Also failure, hardware failure. So not just like, I mean, these are kind of the same, but you know, your hardware can malfunction, your hardware can get stolen, or you can have an on-premise issue where there's a fire or something like that, where these can actually affect your data integrity, where if you use a self-hosted, if you use a hosted service, that's not gonna do that, right? So just consider like, you're all of these roles. And then, of course, the software side, there's some bugs. I don't know, we were trying to do some of the services were like, I don't know, it's not working. Jeff and I are just scratching our heads like, let's go. We'll just use Telegram. And that's what we're gonna go to next, so. But yeah, I think overall, the wins and far outweigh the pains that we've had. And I just wanna be like candid about it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's pretty good. Like it's pretty good. But it's, yeah, but like there was a couple 3 a.m. nights. What? The cost, so yeah, I mean break even. So Joey did a good job of highlighting the opportunity cost. I mean we had a couple thousand up front, and then I don't know, we probably spent $20 a month, maybe $30 a month. That server's a beast. We'll go into hardware soon, but it's got like 2 processors, and it's a big old tower, big power supply, graphics cards in there, tons of stuff in there. And then we've got another server, so probably $20-30 a month. But I mean, that's the equivalent of 1 cloud service, right? So we're crushing it in savings, and I think we've probably gotten close to break even. I don't know if we haven't run the numbers yet, but the other thing is like financial costs aside, there is so much of a cost to not controlling your data. Especially if you're a business, like if you're a successful business, that's like might be your competitive advantage is your data, and you just like have it on somebody else's server. What the hell? So, yeah, we don't want that. And in AI too, I mean, basically everything's getting machine learned, trained on. So you better believe if your business data is being held in a custodial way, just like your Bitcoin are held in a custodial way, it's not yours, it's not your data. I mean, maybe you legally own it, but I mean, they're training on it, so I think that as a Bitcoin institution, we want to control that data, and that's incredibly important to us. Incredible cost savings that you can't really quantify. So yeah, think about upfront costs versus the recurring costs. Anything you want to add there, Jeff? All right, this slide, it's interactive. So our hardware that we do all this on, again, we'll have a field trip in a little bit, but we have a Dell PowerEdge T430 that we found on Facebook Marketplace. I think it was $500. I negotiated the guy. We tore out everything that was in it and basically replaced the components. We put 2 Intel 10 core, I think they were like $10 each, like the processors. These are old computer parts, like seriously old. But they are for more of like a beefier system. It uses a lot more power than like maybe a little mini computer, like if you have an Umbrel or Start 9 or something like that. So it's got 4 NVMe drives in a RAID Z1 array. Some eyes might glaze over on this slide, so just warning you. The reason, this is 4 2-terabyte drives that give us in total 6 terabytes of space. So we lose 2 terabytes of space, and the reason why is that we want to have drive redundancy. So if any one of these drives fail, the contents basically like fall over to the others. So we lose a little bit of storage space, but we gain some fault tolerance. And again, backups, data is so important. So we kind of thought about that from the very beginning. And then we have another 2 hard drives that are 8 terabytes, and these are not the NVMe M.2s, the like tiny little fast hard drives for our VMs, but these are like the big spinning disk drives that are each 8 terabytes, and these are for our content storage and like kind of just like our bulk archive stuff. So we have like some databases that just store stuff, things that we don't need to really access often. We record all our content. We post it on YouTube to help distribute it, but we also store a copy here locally, so we don't lose that data if we ever get deplatformed. They don't like Bitcoin spaces anymore, you know. So that drive is set up in a mirror array, so either one of them can fail, and it's a complete mirror. So we lost actually 50% of the space instead of having 16. We only have 8 terabytes, but that's all our content. So it's super critical that we don't lose our documentation, our member records, all that stuff. So that's where that's stored. And then we have 128 gigs of RAM. Pretty, you know, nothing really that special there. So we use the NVMe drives for the stuff that we access frequently, like our website, Nextcloud, and then we store our other data on the hard disk. Then we've got a second server, and this is a Proxmox backup server. So basically everything on that computer then backs up to another computer right next to it. And so this is the 3.2, well, actually I won't jump ahead, but we have a whole nother backup. So we have redundancy within our server, and then we have a backup of that server. Redundancy is not a backup. Just remember that. It's not a backup. It's different. You need both. And then we have a bunch of network stuff. We have some switches. There's like a router here hanging. Oh, you can't see that on the stream, I hope. There's like a big switch in the back. There's some power PoE switches. That stuff was actually in the building already, but it was pretty easy to just like kind of hook up, plug into it. Jeff, anything you want to touch on like the networking or anything I missed there before we go to software?
Well, maybe a segue here. So we already have it on the slide. Show a hand real quick. How many people have used or heard or have used Proxmox before? Okay, so kind of a minority here. So that I would recommend that would be your starting. If you're thinking about self-hosting, either for at home or your small business, I would seriously consider starting with understanding Proxmox. Confession, I worked at Red Hat for a long time, kind of like enterprise customers and whatnot. I had never heard of Proxmox until Zach told me about it a year and a half ago. And I'm really blown away of how convenient that open source community has made all the functionality needed to self-host and do what we do here. So that I would recommend that being your first starting point for digging in. Sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Oh, okay. So Proxmox has been around for a while, but Enterprise used a product called VMware that they did all their virtualization.
Yeah.
But VMware was bought by Broadcom, and they announced it's like, oh, we're 10xing the prices. We know people are going to get off of it in 4 years, but we'll make our money back in 4 years. But it's been like, even the enterprise stuff is like, this is way too expensive. So they're all going to Proxmox and helping them out and stuff. So it's the development, the open source development is very accelerated in the last year and a half because of that move.
That's interesting. So I worked at Red Hat, and Red Hat, we saw that as an opportunity for enterprise customers to move to Red Hat virtualization. I didn't realize that it also accelerated the use of Proxmox in enterprise environments. So that's pretty cool.
About 2 years ago when this happened, you mentioned, it was really difficult to migrate all your VMs over. Now, with the newest version of Proxmox, it's just a couple clicks. They build it in to specifically migrate from VMware over.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So I think we run the community edition of Proxmox, but there's an enterprise version that has more features. And yeah, there's a lot of YouTube channels and forums, like tons and tons of resources out there. And with a will, you can figure it out. And the willingness to like make some mistakes. And I guess it may be worth like kind of zooming out a bit and saying like, why did we choose Proxmox? Like, why didn't we just choose like a Debian server or something? And it was really twofold. The first was the isolation across services. So I was kind of doing this myself until Jeff jumped in, and I'm not like a network security guy and was a little paranoid about opening things up to the internet and not knowing what I was doing. So to me, I like the idea of like each of these services are virtualized, so they're all kind of isolated from one another. And the other was the easy backup method that it gives you with Proxmox backup server. And again, so data retention, just super paranoid about security and data redundancy. And so that was kind of my motivations. And it's, yeah, I mean, there's like all kinds of resources. There's a Proxmox helper scripts, which is like a really cool website where you can, careful to like pipe to bash like in your server, but it's pretty convenient, and a lot of people use it, and it makes installing services super easy.
And I don't think there's any regrets on that decision either, Zach.
Yeah.
When Zach first told me they were going to self-host, I'm a Linux command guy type of guy, and VI and terminals and things like that. I just assumed we were going to do things the old-fashioned way. And Zach started talking to me about Proxmox, and I'm like, "Come on, let's do it right." But
You did try to talk me out of it.
yeah, for sure. But no, it's really slick. So
I want to kind of add this is just kind of, I don't know if people look like, oh, this server, I have to buy special. Like, it put it into perspective. It's like those things are not much powerful than an iPhone.
that's right.
Like, kind of stuff. Like, that's how crazy our hardware is right now.
Yeah.
Is people could probably run their self-hosting on an old, old Android phone.
The real reason we got such a big full tower was because we needed the hard drive space and we needed the memory slots. It wasn't the hardware capabilities as much as it was like the capacity constraints, because we were running it like a commercial type server, and we knew we were going to be holding a lot of data and running a lot of services. But yeah, I mean it's been pretty good, and so Proxmox is like we have one computer, like one physical tower. And when you like plugged in like a flash drive and installed Proxmox instead of Windows, like basically. And once you install Proxmox, that's where the onion begins, because then you can install like virtual computers inside of that. And that's where all of our services live. So each one it's pretty much all mostly Debian, Linux. So, there were some like conversations that Jeff and I had early on. It was like, should we be like running Proxmox and then running Debian when we could just run everything on Debian, like a Debian server? Well, again, we talked about it. I think trade-offs were worth it, and the Proxmox automatic backups and there's like deduplication and stuff that's more advanced concepts, but like I think it's worth it. And then within that, we have different types of containerization. So this is like when you set up a service, you need to pick the type of container. So it's either a KVM or an LXC. I think that's like Linux container or something virtual machine. I don't know. But
Yeah, KVM is a virtualization technology, similar to this gentleman was talking about here, if you're going to be running VMs. So on that point, our Nextcloud is, our StartOS and our Home Assistant are run as VMs within Proxmox. And
yeah, they're VMs. StartOS is a VM, or what do you call it? Yeah, it's
a VM.
Yeah, it's a full VM. So the difference is that LXCs share the kernel with the underlying other LXCs and base system, whereas the KVMs don't. So think of it as like another trade-off between like resource management and full isolation. So for like the Bitcoin services and the stuff with all of our extremely important sensitive data, those things are in their own isolated VMs that don't share a kernel with the rest of the services. Yeah, if I start talking about it more than that, I'm going to collapse. So if anything else.
That's good. Yeah, so virtualization technology as well as container technology. The default for container technology in Proxmox is known as LXC. So that's a technology that's been around for over a decade. Even, I think it even pre-exists if you've heard of Docker before, right? So it's an old, I thought it was dead, but it's made a huge revival, and I found it to be very flexible. So I've become a fan of LXC. And in fact, it's so flexible that you'll find that a lot of applications, so as an example, this polling application, the authors of that application, they might provide a Docker container and a Docker file. Turns out, easy enough, you can run your Docker containers within an LXC container, no problem. So you have a lot of options.
Yeah, and if that sounds like it's way overkill, it might be, but it's easy, and it works, so we're gonna keep doing it. But yeah, I mean, there's some like debate on like if it's like over-engineered, but again, we really like the idea of having each service separate from one another, and it also makes the backups separate too. So we could literally like delete an entire service and know that it absolutely doesn't have a single shared file or anything with another service. So for the security paranoid, it works, but I think we do try to generally avoid installing Docker inside of an LXC because it's like it's just, I don't understand it.
Maybe, I'll look into that. I haven't seen that, but yeah, thanks.
So here's some of the things that we replaced. So this is a kind of like our comparison slide. So we run Nextcloud. That's like our Google suite for our business. So if you pay whatever, $30, $40, $50, $100 a month, whatever, we store all our data, our content, all our users. We have project collaboration. We have a room calendar where you can like book our conference rooms, all kind of stuff. We have I don't know, am I missing anything? We have yeah, it's like it's kind of like our hub for the space is our Nextcloud. We have Nextcloud Collab, which is our Google Docs. So we have a collaboration tool where people can share and interact with docs that are saved in Nextcloud on our server. We also have ListMonk. This is our email newsletter campaign tool. So if you aren't a member of our newsletter, you should be. Go to denver.space and join the newsletter, and you'll get a newsletter when we send it out. We don't send them out that much, so it's okay to subscribe.
Our decision-making process on what to run on the server is pretty straightforward. If Zach or another member of the board tells me to do it, then I'll do it. And that's about the extent of it.
It's not a command, Jeff. We ask very nicely. Yeah, it's basically like, oh, that looks cool. Can we use it? Great. And that's kind of our next one, 20. I think Jeff was foreshadowing a little bit. So we have been kind of disorganized from our CRM. And again, we're a business. Like we have members, they're our customers. They pay us every month. We also have donors who are our customers. We also have sponsors who are our customers. And we need to manage all of these in our customer relationship management tool. HubSpot's a pretty good one. Salesforce is another big common hosted one. We run 20. 20 is a self-hosted CRM. It's great. We just downloaded it like a month ago. We haven't really started ramping up and like using it yet because there's so much that you can do with it. And that's kind of like one of the cautionary tales is like careful to bite off more than you can chew. Do one at a time. But 20 is great. You can hook it up to a lot of different things. It's got an API. Clapper, that's the self-hosted survey tool. That's poll.denver.space. We just changed the name. Pretalks is a self-hosted conference tool. So if you go to like conference.denver.space, it's like a whole list of all of the, like we had a summit here a month or so ago, the Bitcoin Financial Services Summit. And it was like a 2-day event with speakers and panels and like, just like if you would go to like a Bitcoin conference and there's like about the speakers on each, like you can drill in, you can see the schedule and like all this stuff is self-hosted. I mean, there are tools, I think we had to pay like $1,000 for a weekend if you wanted access to this for a custodial, or I call them custodial because they're custodying your data, but a hosted version of the same thing, basically. Telegram, we tried using Matrix, and we love the idea of having Matrix. Honestly, like, our members were like, this sucks, and it was so buggy. I think we tried a few different implementations of Matrix, too.
We tried a Python implementation and a Rust implementation. David, how's the experience on Start 9? Is it pretty good? I don't.
Yeah, so there you go. Tor. Secure, but slow. And that's the thing with our chat app. Like, sometimes people are just, you know, I mean, we have like banter and stuff, and it's like, oh, I'd love to react to your message, but it's not loading. So there's some, you know, some things that we chose not to self-host yet. I would like to move us to like Signal or something at least, but some of our users, I think we started this before you could sign up with Signal without a phone number, so give us some credit. But we should do that. Proton, we also still use Proton, so Proton Mail, Proton Pass. We talked about running Bitwarden on premise. At the end, we just decided it was too much of a security risk, and we weren't confident enough in our backups to, like, because if we lost that, now we got locked out of everything, even if we had our backups. So we decided not to self-host our password manager. But you can't get to these services, you know, we can take them offline in a second if we were to ever lose access. So Proton Mail is still good, and we have multiple user accounts for that on the board. Yeah, Bitwarden would have been good. Let's see, we've got Lightning Node and mempool space. So we, I think with that, our main thing is we do have a Lightning Node, and most of our members just connect channels to us, open channels to us, so that if there's ever like a technical failure, sorry, they're on the hook for the forced closure fee. And the other thing is that we run our own mempool. So I am not a Notch supporter, but the guy who manages our node is, and our node filters the shit out of your transactions, and I'm fine with it because whatever. So yeah, it's our node, it's our rules. If it's not your node, it's not your rules. So you have that ability, if you're a Bitcoin business, to decide what transactions come in and out of your mempool. There are other things like BTC Pay Server that we also self-host. I actually just forgot to put that here because I was doing this morning. The whole project collapsed at like 10 a.m. So the BTC Pay is good, but we use Zappright actually for most of our business. It's a Bitcoin company, so we like supporting other Bitcoin businesses. And it also has credit card payment. I know. But like, it's a necessary evil still today, and it helps a lot of our members pay monthly dues or make donations or buy merch or whatever and not spend their sats. That may change now with Cash App, and now that we have the ability to, like, maybe we don't need that anymore, but Zappright's been really good, and it's very, very affordable. So that would be the one service that I'd say we actually don't mind paying. Here's a screenshot of our command center. It might be kind of small, but there's just a lot going on in there. So this is basically the Proxmox layout where you see all of the different services here. Ooh, I forgot to mention Umami. So we have like a Google Analytics replacement. So if you visit our website, denver.space, we are watching you. And we know like what device you view it from and what IP address area. We don't know like your actual, at least I don't know how to find that, but maybe we do. But we know like your like region, so we know if people in New York City are checking out the space, or no surprise, most of our online interactions are from Denver or from Colorado. But yeah, like you can see, we have different tags. So a lot of the stuff is like our website. We self-host our front-end website, denver.space. We built that with Astro, so like a modern web development framework. Let's see, we've got a discourse. That's like our forum. So we have one for the space about our member resources. So things about, what is it, like our policies, member handbook, and all that. And then we have another one, another instance. Didn't you set up it was a second discourse, right, for the heat punks?
Yes. Yeah, heatpunks.org is
Yeah,
is
so
Discord server.
that's a forum. You can go to heatpunks.org. It's a forum all about using heat from Bitcoin miners to heat your home or heat your business. And this whole business is heated with Bitcoin miners, by the way. Shout out to Tyler and Dylan at Exergy. Yeah, so most of the stuff's like websites. We've got some networking services, automation. We use Home Assistant. And yeah, it's a growing list. So let's see. Backups. Most important thing. Remember anything about this presentation, just remember 3, 2, 1. So 3 copies with 2 different types of media with at least 1 off-site backup. So pretty straightforward. Do that. So we have 2 here, and then we have a off-site backup that's connected over Tailscale. So we can connect, we run Tailscale here too. That's another service. And you could use WireGuard or OpenVPN. Basically, you just connect you back up the entire machine to a server that is not in your building. Just like, and if you're connected via Tailscale or something like that, the computer will think it's local. So not doing it over the web, but over a peer-to-peer tunnel connection. And we do automated backups, right? So Jeff, do you want to talk about like kind of, I think because you set that up, what's the backup method, strategy, frequency, stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a user interface for Proxmox that's super easy to use, and per LXC container or per VM, you can set up the frequency at which you want to back up that service. And so normally we do so at off hours at night. I think our VMs, so those things that are important, right, we back up every night. If there's a service of ours that is a little bit more static in nature, we might back it up once a week. But all that is configurable by service.
So yeah, back up. It's critical that you not only practice backups, but that you not only back up, but you practice restoring your backups. So I think when we were setting up our Proxmox backup server, which is a different operating system than Proxmox, by the way, but they're kind of built to go together. We deleted something. I think we deleted the configuration. We deleted the configuration file, and then we still had all the data, but the configurations were gone. And so I was here till like 10. Jeff was here till like 3, restoring that stuff, and that was a painful learning moment to make sure you not only back up the data, but the configurations of the VMs and the LXCs. So anything you want to add to that? Yeah, so that was, we will not make that mistake again. Let's see. Yeah, we'll make different ones, exactly. Oh yeah, you thought this would be easy. Networking, so you want to, this is above my understanding, so you want to talk about the networking?
Sure. So in the context of self-hosting, probably the first place, from a networking perspective, the first place you want to start is what are you going to do for your domain name service, so DNS. And so here at the space, our DNS name is denver.space. And as an example with this polling tool, everything is a subdomain off of denver.space. So polling.denver.space, right? All of that is managed through a service. Works fine for us. It's called Namecheap, but there's lots of DNS providers out there. And so that's the first thing you want to think about, what your DNS provider is going to be and setting up the records for your domain name. I think the second thing you want to think about also is how often, do you have a static IP address in your home or your small business, or is it dynamic? In our case, we could have got a static IP. The building owner, we just went with a dynamic IP. And if you're going to do that, which means that anytime the internet goes down, chances are is that you're not going to get the same IP address for your home or your business. So you need something that can automate updating, in our case, Namecheap, or your domain name provider, with the correct updated IP address. So for that, just so you're aware, there's a very simple tool in the open source world called DD Client. And so easy to use. And basically what it does is every 5 minutes or so, DD Client will detect what the IP address is at that time of your internet. And it'll go out, in our case, to Namecheap, and you know, if there's a difference there, it'll go ahead and automatically update that. So that helps a lot. Is there any questions about DNS as a starting point? Yes, in our case, yeah, we have a dynamic, well, DD client, is that what you mean?
No, I'm just saying you're describing.
Yes, that's what DD client is, yeah.
Is that what the first D is? Dynamic?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And yeah, you need a network guy. You need a lot of tutorials because it's there's a lot to learn there, and also the firewalls and like the security of the stuff too. So we set up traffic or traffic.
Well, even before that, so you got your DNS set up, and now let's say you guys navigated to polling or poll.denver.space, right? So that has to come, that gets routed to our internet provider here at the space. That happens to be Quantum Fiber. And so what you're going to need to do is what's called port forwarding in that modem for your internet provider. So in particular, you're going to port forward 443 and 80. In our case, we also port forward a couple of other ports as well, because as an example, we'll run what's called a datum server on Start 9. That's Bitcoin-related functionality. But the point is that inbound traffic comes through your internet provider, in our case, Quantum Fiber. We port forward, and we port forward then to what Zach just brought up, a traffic reverse proxy. And then the traffic server is really important to us. It's the one that is routing, essentially, requests based on the host name to the appropriate service that's running on our Proxmox. So you take something like poll.denver.space, there's a configuration in our traffic server that sees, okay, this request has a host name of poll.denver.space. I'm now going to route it to the appropriate service running on our Proxmox. So that's just the general architecture there. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it goes internet router, then their Proxmox itself has a firewall for the whole system, and then each service can have a firewall, and then we have the reverse proxy. I love it's traffic. If you look at the like icon, it's like a guide directing traffic, and when you learn about like what the purpose of it is, makes sense. It's like directing traffic, network traffic internally on your LAN. Yeah, anything else we should hit on networking? We were working to stream video on LAN too, but something we've learned is that bandwidth can be a challenge when you're trying to stream 4K, but you also have like 100 other things going on in your network. So maybe we'll consider. I think we can only do 1 gig just because of the Ethernet in the building. So we'd have to like rip out all the Cat 5, or maybe it's Cat 6. Either way, there are still limitations. Yeah, Dan. Hey, dude, that's the next slide. Yes. We have different networks.
Before we leave the last slide, I just have a question on what we see you're using BTP-based server too, is on its own, I'm sure. And does it need to connect to these these isolated containers need to back from each other?
Yes, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
They do, and that's where it gets. That's where. What was the? Is that what DD client or is it DNS mask or?
Yes, yeah, the latter. So within our internal network, our LAN, we run another DNS provider, DNS mask, works great. It's its own container. And through that, it allows for name resolution within our LAN so that the service-to-service communication is easy.
Yeah, in the case of BTC Pay, and we actually, when we were doing this, we had some trouble with that, Moses. So we were initially, like when Dave and I were building it, we had Bitcoin Core. I think I'm okay to say that word in this room. Lightning, we were running Core Lightning, another Core, oh God. And then we also were running Mempool and an Electrum server. So it was like 4 different things. Quick plug for Start9, the Denver-based company. They make that easy in all-in-one. So that's actually why we chose the VM, because Start9 wouldn't run inside an LXC. So we were in a situation where we had to get our Bitcoin node to talk to our Lightning node, which talked to our Electrum server, which talked to our Mempool instance, and like in that order, I think, or maybe one of those was out of order. But
Brian?
yeah, we're not running like a DNS sinkhole, like AdGuard or Pi-hole. We probably should. That way when you query websites, when you're at the space, like if you're on our Wi-Fi, that stuff's, you know, going to our local DNS instead of Google or Quantum's DNS. We're not doing that. We probably should, but we have enough network issues that maybe we're just kind of hesitant to add another layer to it. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. Put in a request.
All right, it'll be up tomorrow, Brian.
Correct.
And is everything encrypted internally? Like with certifications or using HTTPS?
Who's asking?
No. No.
So like if I wanted to go through something internal, what's the URL for it? And is that URL encrypted?
It's the IP, local IP. Yeah, and it's not. It's just HTTP. Yeah. There is a self-signed certificate that you can. Yeah, or a caddy.
Yeah. Those are the types of things that if you're going to go down that route, at least this is my experience. This is where things like a container orchestration engine like Kubernetes is going to come into play. A lot of that, along with other tools that fit into the Kubernetes ecosystem, one in particular called Istio. And all this functionality kind of comes out of the box with Istio running in a Kubernetes environment. There's certainly a learning curve there, for sure. It's not trivial.
Just to throw in the reason I'm here is because that self-signing certificate issue that you just can't get rid of because of that is so real that okay, you gotta back up and solve it right.
I mean,
Yeah, inter-network communications are now tripping me up. And I'm like,
But are you trying to do the internal thing, which like Josh was talking about, or are you just like, oh, okay, well, yeah.
I mean, if you're on Denver, like if you're on our Wi-Fi and you just go to the IP address of our server, it's gonna come up with like the big flashing warning signs that's like, not HTTPS, but like there's nothing leaving our network, so that's okay as long as we are a trusted network here. I mean, we also, and I mind you, like the network that you as a guest can connect to is not the same Wi-Fi network that our server's on. So we have isolated that across the LAN. So you can't connect to our Proxmox server without a separate network credentials that we do not share. So there is like, I think the self-signed certificates are nice, but it's more of like a nice to have than like if we were to connect to that outside, now it's a problem. But still, that's the only time we do that is through WireGuard Tailscale, which is an encrypted VPN tunnel, so it's still not really an issue. Start9 makes it really easy to like make that go away. They got like a nice tutorial that's like, here's how to do that.
Coming from a banking background, I imagine that's a big deal. Yeah. So mutual TLS.
the tailnet. So when I connect to our Tailscale, when I'm at home, I just type in the same IP address that like the local IP, and it connects to it. I'm curious though, I will try type in the tailnet IP in and see if that does anything. We also don't have, the way we do Tailscale is a relay, so, or is a, what is it? It open, like, no, it's a allow LAN connection. So it uses a subnet routing. That's what it's called. So if you connect to Tailscale, you can connect to any device on our network. And that's not a default setting. That's something that we chose intentionally because we didn't want to install a Tailscale container in your Tailscale package in each container that we were running. All right, let's get on to security. So we don't update like super often just because that's when shit breaks, to be honest. But we do try to stay on top of updates if they're critical security vulnerabilities. Like this is production, so you want to run a production server. So yeah, I mean, update carefully, back up before you update too. Physical security is another thing. So we'll do a field trip. It's locked up. You can't get to the server. I mean, there's like a metal cage. We got a steel welder to build us a cage around this server. So a fire could destroy it, but theft won't. Network security is another thing. So like I said, we already kind of jumped ahead, but we have different isolated Wi-Fis. So our network infrastructure is on a different one than the one that's like usable for browsing. And then we have like a secrets manager that's also hosted that some of our front-end services need to contact. Like we have our treasury.denver.space. So there's like some API keys that like hook up to our Strike account and our Mercury Bank account. And obviously we don't want to put those out in the world. So we run I don't actually really know how this works. So maybe you want to explain it, Jeff. But there's a secrets manager that somehow makes it work in physical.
We actually don't use that anymore.
There you go. We used to use it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, moving on.
All the credentials needed are on the back end of the service. So there's a JavaScript front end, and then there's a back end.
So it's just like an environment variable.
Yeah.
Okay. Learn something new. So we could probably delete. I think I saw it on our server still, so we don't need it. User access. Jeff and I are pretty much the only people with access to it, to the server, and generally, like, make sure that if you're like hosting this, it should probably just be you or you and the person helping you manage it. And we have unique credentials for every single service. We don't share any of them across any of the services. It's just like foundational security. And then compliance. I had to include this one in here since we're live streaming. We comply with all data requirements for deletion requests. Nobody's asked us to delete anything yet, except for that embarrassing clip that Tatum had. But we're learning as we go, so we're a small business. I mean, we're figuring a lot of this stuff out. There was no map on how to open a Bitcoin co-working hub, but here we are. So I think we're doing okay.
There's also a consideration of application security as well. And up to this point, we've been in business for about a year or so. Things have been pretty simple and straightforward. So we don't actually have a need yet for maintaining like user or member credentials, like login credentials or anything like that would necessitate something like a single sign-on. Maybe in the future, if there's requests, we'll have applications where we'll be tracking member login information, and it'll get more complex. But as of right now, from an application security perspective, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, each service basically has its own login credentials for our users. So great segue, Jeff. So this is, I think, our maybe second or third to last slide. So kind of looking to the future, one of the things that we want to do is exactly what Jeff just mentioned, which is have this sort of single sign-on. So when you become a member of the space, you have one credential, and that gets you into all of our services. We've looked at things like Auth0, just like prioritization. I mean, we've got a lot going on, a small team, mostly of volunteers. So it's a choose your battles always. But yeah, the idea of having just like a single platform where users can log into the forums, to their to the website, to anything they need from our organization would be great. So working on that. On-premise AI is another one. So our building, the owner of the building has a sick AI setup downstairs, and we're hoping we can hook up into it. It's like a couple, what is it, the B200s? I mean, it's like some of the state-of-the-art GPUs that we can hook into in our LAN. And really, Joey is a big part of this effort, where as the guy who took all the notes for all our board meetings, and very, very like against using Claude and ChatGPT and stuff for, hey, summarize the entire transcript for our board meeting into this exact format so we can circulate these open source minutes to our members. And we want to move that stuff on premise, but there's a cost. I mean, we can't afford these GPUs. So thankfully, we're able to just kind of hook into them, but there are some things that we've got to like still work out in the planning stages there. Another is automation. So there's something called Ansible playbooks that allow you to basically deploy infrastructure as code. So it just makes like configurations and setups just much more standardized. And Jeff, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, we haven't gone the Ansible route yet. Right now we're doing kind of like the poor man's approach, where all configuration is just version controlled in Git. It's gotten us by just fine, but maybe in the future we'll move towards something like Ansible.
And a couple other things, like we run Home Assistant, but we could get much more deeply integrated into it. Exergy, that's like a big part of their business, is automation. And so hopefully we can tap into some of the stuff that they're building here. Frigate's another thing. So we use Abode for our security system. We had a lot of art in here that actually just came off the walls a few days ago. We are using that. We would like to move to a self-hosted security system. But again, trade-offs where somebody breaks in and then they steal our NVR. There's our footage to see who did it. So there are trade-offs to this stuff that we are constantly like kind of weighing. And as we improve our on-premise security and our network security, we can kind of rely on more things here. But Frigate is a great, and it's also got like AI machine learning built in, so it's kind of creepy. I don't know if our members would like this, to be honest, but like it can recognize like what member walks in the door. Big brother. So at least it's our big brother and not somebody else's big brother. Data, you never have enough data, especially today. So things like Prometheus, Grafana, Uptime, Kuma, just to understand more about, get data-driven insights about our organization. Alerts, so, and that kind of comes on the piggyback of the user system, but if we can get people's alert system set up, notifications. Sometimes we have issues with like, oh, I didn't know that event was going on at the space today. Well, if we had like a notification system or some kind of alerts that you could opt into that wasn't spammy, that might be cool. Especially if we had our own space app that you had like the single sign on and you could just like do some push stuff. So, you know, with the power of these on-premise AI, you know, getting easier and easier, even those of us that aren't developers like me can be, you know, somewhat empowered to start building this stuff. And then I get it to a point where it's like, okay, I don't know how to do this anymore, and just hand it to Jeff and he gets it to production ready. So finding a good team is obviously like, you know, not just for this part, but just in business in general. Some more, just quick couple lessons we've learned. So backups, you gotta, I don't if you haven't gotten it by this point, you're never gonna. Backups are the most important thing we're talking about today. So we should have backed up our stuff sooner, especially the configuration files, because that was a painful night. And we should also probably read the documentation more. I like get excited about stuff and just want to like send it. But like you should probably read the docs. I mean, especially with all this open source, Jeff is really good about reading the docs. He's like, did you read the documentation? No. Read the docs. There's a lot of forums and stuff out there, like for questions that you might have, like weird snags that you hit. Might be on the forums. I would say AI can be helpful with that stuff, but be careful about just running AI slop code because it can blow your stuff up. That's exactly what happened to this presentation this morning. I was like, hey, can you make these like bullet points clickable? And it deleted my entire, all my slides. So backups. Thankfully, I had a backup. I sent it to Jeff last night. But yeah, learning as we go, documentation is key, backups are key, all the stuff that I keep repeating over and over again. I think this is the last slide. No, 17. So other advice is start small. So just like start with one service at a time. We got like our Bitcoin, we got the most essential stuff up like Nextcloud and our Bitcoin services so we could just accept Bitcoin payments. And by the way, this presentation is it's on our GitHub. So you can download, you can literally just pull this from our GitHub and interact with the presentation, watch it, do whatever. Plan, then act. So read the docs and use well-documented software. So sometimes like there was I think it was go to RTC. We were trying to do some kind of local streaming and the documentation was pretty sparse. And that could just be kind of frustrating and demoralizing. So choose well-documented software if you can. Some of the ones that we chose were all for that reason. And use the right tools and read the docs. So use the right tools for the right purposes. Don't try to put a square peg in a round hole and vice versa. Things are specially made for certain things. And although Nextcloud can do a lot, it's not the best at everything. Their calendar tool is really lacking. Yeah, the Google Docs is very slow to collab. So I didn't really want to say this out on the recording, but a lot of times we will actually download the file, edit it locally, and then re-upload it because there are some issues with like the latency and the Collabora online, the Nextcloud collab tool. But, it's open source software. It's free. So, I mean, it's pretty good for free. And then work with each other to figure out what your specialties are. So there's a lot of guys that are good at Home Assistant. Jeff's really good at networking. I'm really good at finding new tools to download. And then document. So we use Git. We have a space GitHub, but another thing I want to run is Git. It's just like a local Git. So we have like proprietary stuff that we sometimes post, and we have private Git repos, but it's just kind of cool to have your own Git here at home. And then like try to figure out like when to self-host and when not. So I hope I've given you some like kind of highlighted some of the thought process and decision making about when to self-host. So if it's super critical and your whole business is going to burn down if it falls apart, then you may not want to self-host that part, or you may want to at least like really think deeply about how confident you are in your backups and your security and stuff for that. New stuff and highly secure stuff, probably like maybe you tread a little more carefully there, or stuff that needs to be highly secure. And then yeah, Jeff maintains it. I was kind of the initial architect of it, and we're working to document all of this stuff so that if you open a small business and you want to self-host, those Ansible playbooks will be really great because you could just like click and it'll basically do it all for you. But we're working to document this stuff and share our knowledge with the open source community, just like the open source community has helped us come to be what we are. And finally, who's going to guess what this last thing says? Back up, back up, back up. Exactly. Back up. Oh my gosh, if you remember nothing else. That was it, guys. Thank you so much for your attention. And yeah, if you have other questions, I will go to the polling tool. And we have a mic here. We can, if you want to mic up, and we can ask any more questions.
Check, check. Donate to open source devs. If you really like a service that you use, if it's really helpful, especially if you're running a business and it's helping you make money, then donate to them because they're helping you make money.
So you guys mentioned Tailscale for offsite backups. Where is that going?
Not going to disclose that.
Okay. Can you tell us like what it is? Is it just like a server that someone owns personally, like not AWS?
Yeah, it's not. It's another privately hosted.
And then can you talk more about Ansible? Are you guys using that for like patching, for updating all your containers and servers?
No, we're not using Ansible yet. Right. Everything configuration related is just version controlled in a Git repository.
Are you doing it manually for now then?
Yeah. But Ansible would be the perfect tool. I mean, at some point we'll get to the point where we just can't do things manually, and we have to be able to scale. And
So you guys mentioned the helper scripts on Proxmox. They have a whole script that will help you automate updates for all of the OS level patching, but it won't be for like the individual application. So like if you're running Bitwarden, it won't update that, but it will be all your servers. So I was able to do that in like 10 minutes. It worked great.
Nice.
Yeah, that's I saw that. We haven't done it. We've kind of been hands off on the updates lately because we had a hard drive. I guess we forgot to share that story. We had the initial hard drive setup that we had was like destroying the disk. I mean, the disks were like a year old. Like we bought them brand new, and we're running ZFS, and it just ate this hard drive up in the read and writes. I mean, it was like thousands of or hundreds of terabytes in a year, and it only had like a total write of like 800 terabytes or something. And I think it was because the RAID array was like degraded. So we realized that like one of the hard drives had been down since the very beginning, and it just like the second we like repaired it, it like stopped the wear down significantly. So yeah, just like weird quirks. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. So one of the services you mentioned is Listmong that you use for newsletters. How does that compare to MailChimp? Like in terms of UI?
Feature parity. I would say it's probably 80% of the way there. There's a few things left to be desired, particularly because it doesn't have the same marketing analytics tracking that like a MailChimp engagement would, because it's not hooked up to our Umami instance, which is like our Google Analytics replacement. So we don't get any real data about our email engagement or interactions. I don't think that's impossible. We just don't. Maybe you can. So for us being like a very privacy-focused organization, we're okay with that trade-off. Although like some businesses are much more about like email intent-driven sales signals and marketing, and I'd say ours is more about information disbursement than it is like lead gen. So I don't know that it would be as good for us if our business use for it was different.
Okay, thank you. And the other two questions, I guess, is more my wish list questions. So you mentioned that you do educational stuff here, but there was no further mention as to what you guys do. Are you guys planning to integrate Bitcoin with some of the works with Home Assistant's hardware? Because now there's like a whole list of hardware that works with Home Assistant. And since you're already using it.
Yeah, so Dylan and Tyler, who are part of the co-founding team here, they have a business called Exergy, and their whole business model is to essentially automate your heating with Bitcoin miners in your home, and so they're big users of Home Assistant. They've actually like are contributors to that, to Home Assistant. They might be able to answer more on that integration, because Dylan manages our Home Assistant instance, like the configurations and all of that. I know I mean, the whole building is like heated with Bitcoin mining already. And I know we have like these smart lights these are all hooked up to Home Assistant. The locks are hooked up to Home Assistant. But there's, I'm not sure specifically on the timing of like turning miners on and off and stuff like with Home Assistant. I don't know if that's like specifically what you're thinking about. But we also, it's funny when we moved in here, we weren't allowed to mine Bitcoin. Like that was in the lease. And now the entire building is heated with Bitcoin. So just be persistent, y'all.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, one of my big wishes, you know, Pleb has this like lightning door. Are you guys gonna do a workshop like that?
I would like to, yeah. I mean, it's always just who's going to run it, who's got the time to put it on. I mean, we would like to integrate a lot more lightning things in here. It's just a matter of like who's going to do it, and yeah. But I mean, I've been to Pleb Lab and I've seen that. It's cool. Actually, Pleb Lab was part of the inspiration for this venue here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, members of the space can host events here. So if you are a member, you can join for $150 a month. And you have the ability to propose an event. We've not really rejected any. So as long as you're going to put it on and own it. Mark.
Hey there. Speaking of hosting an event, two things. And one's around, we've run a couple of events here. How has that been integrated into all the stuff you've been covering? So when we did the Heat Punk Summit last February, and then when we did the financial services, how does that integrate into this? Just as a member, I'm curious, because this is amazing, by the way. Hats off to both you guys and anyone else that's helped. I mean, and David as well. Unbelievable. I didn't know any of this shit. So super, super thankful that you guys do this.
Thank you. Yeah, we used the conference tool. I'd say that was probably the most obvious one. The conferencing tool that had the agenda and the schedule, like for those things like the Heat Punk Summit or the Financial Services Summit, those were pretty used. The polling tool is another one that gets used quite a bit throughout events. The Nextcloud's used a lot just for like our content storage and distributing stuff, and we have like contracts and member data, receipts and stuff that we want to make sure is not just sitting on somebody else's server. So all that stuff's stored here locally.
Was the payment handled separately, or did it come through our BTC Pay server? For payment
that was Zaprite. Yeah, we use Zaprite for those. Not because we couldn't use BTC Pay, but it was just more of a preference. It
was easier.
It was easier, and it had ticketing features that the BTC Pay server didn't have yet.
Okay. All right.
On that point, with the payment through Zaprite, just kind of like to grease the wheels and make creating events a little bit easier for us, we have an integration between Zaprite and our email, our mailing list service, which is called ListMonk, this lady was talking about.
Yeah.
So let's say, Mark, you were to sign up for the upcoming Heat Punk Summit,
Heat Punk,
right? You go ahead and you pay in Zaprite, and we have a web socket that gets Zaprite's going to send us a message to our services telling us that you just signed up, and then it just automatically adds you to our ListMonk service, so that you get emails as appropriate based on what you signed up for.
Okay. All right, good. Well, and this
Things
relates,
like
well, and I think I've talked to both you guys about this, but I plan on doing a time chain summit.
Yes.
That'll be on May 8th and May 9th. In fact, Bob Burnett signed up. Guy Swan's probably going to be coming. I've talked to him about it. He's excited about it. And I'm going to need, for sure, your help.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how to do it. And frankly, you just made it sound like, okay, there's no chance I'm going to figure this out without your help. So, yeah, well, no, but I'm sure for everyone that's got their own business, it's been fantastic. But I'm going to definitely want some help on that. And I'm not even sure where or how to start, but that'll be a conversation for another time. But I did want to let people know that there will be a time chain summit. And basically, it's really about, everybody gets all excited about Bitcoin, the asset, and how the price goes up. The time chain, and the way I put it is, Bitcoin, the asset, without the time chain is just another shitcoin. So it's all the infrastructure that makes up. It's the network, it's the protocol, it's the layer ones that exist now. It's like Lightning and BitVM and you know, Fedi's coming online. And all the layer twos that'll come out in the future. I actually want to have a summit where we celebrate that rather than the asset. And it'll be more of a working group kind of a thing than it will be a whole bunch of speakers, you know, that are sort of talking heads. I hate that.
So, Bitcoin with a capital B.
Yes, exactly.
Instead
exactly
of the
right.
lowercase b.
Exactly.
Both are valid, by the way.
Yeah. So that was, but fantastic. Like I said, I cannot believe all that you guys have done to help this get set up. It's unbelievable. So thank you.
It's been a group effort. We've got 80, did I say 83? I think it's 83 full-time members at the space who help make this place a reality. So,
Okay, another technical question. You mentioned traffic used for reverse proxy. Why traffic over something like Zoraxi or Nginx Proxy Manager that I think are a little easier to use?
I liked the UI. I'm just going to be straight with you.
I've never used it, so is it easy or is it, it seems, I've heard it's difficult. That's why I've never used it.
I haven't had any issues with it. I come from a background of Nginx myself, but traffic is fine. It's worked fine.
No,
Would you recommend it for beginners?
Yeah. I mean, I like the way that we're able to kind of like segregate. It's one configuration file per service. And so you can kind of like just kind of get an overview of what's going on in your traffic environment just by looking at the configuration files for each service. And then, you figure out one and they just all follow a pattern. It's pretty straightforward.
It was extremely well documented. I'm sure Nginx Proxy Manager and Zoraxi and other ones are just as well. But honestly, like it was just like a really user-friendly interface, and that was, I think, we set up traffic like right when basically it was running in my house for a while until we got the building, because we had members before we had a building, and so at that point I was running it myself. And I liked the interface of traffic. And then I was like, hey, Jeff, how do we make this work when we move it? And so we just kind of like went with it. But it seemed to be a pretty good, well-documented thing. But no particular reason why you would choose one over the other than preference.
I'd also say from a performance perspective, it's been at least it's been comparable to what I would expect from Nginx as well. So it's been fine.
Okay. I'd say, depends on your business, but probably the easiest thing to do is just get familiarized with running your own website. Every business, I think, is going to need a website. So you could even just use isn't our Proxmox backup server like an old PC that you just had sitting around like from 10 years ago? So, if you have like an old computer, you could even just start there. And just like see if you can self-host your website. And there's lots of tutorials. Just be careful about the port openings, but Jeff talked about that a little bit and what you can do. Another would be to I want to retract that answer. Maybe start with like Start9 first, actually, because they make it so easy to even do that basic stuff. And have like clickable GUI interfaces for everything that you could do with the command line. And they're local, so you got to support local. I'd say that. Yeah. Jeff, do you have anything else to add on
it? Joey, the question was specific to a small business? Yeah, well, I would say install Start9, get familiar with the user interface, and as Zach mentioned, build yourself a Hello World website on it, get that routed, and you're on the way. You're well on your way.
I had a couple wish list questions. You mentioned that you didn't want to run Bitwarden or VaultWarden for security reasons because you were afraid of losing all your passwords. But since every client, and we'll just assume root or admin clients in this case, is caching all your passwords, wouldn't it be the most backed up thing, even more so than the other services? Or is there something I'm not thinking about?
No, you're exactly right. I think it was more of less about like, we have such good backup and redundancy that I'm less concerned about that. It's more about security and access controls. To be honest, like, we're probably to a point where we could and maybe should do that, but we do use Proton, and we have decided that email is not a thing that we want to self-host. And since we are already not going to be self-hosting our email, we're already paying for Proton Mail. Proton Pass is pretty convenient, and so it's just more of a like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing. But it's probably no good reason why we couldn't or shouldn't move to Bitwarden other than just complacency.
Sure. I was just curious if there's something I was missing. And then a second wish list item, if you want to encourage some Signal users, because you have Home Assistant fans, it'd be worth noting that you can automate Signal messages from Home Assistant. So you could get alerts, like you were talking about, you want to do SMS or email, but you can actually do automated alerts straight to a Signal group or account or whatever from Home Assistant. So that might be a
And that's
a
not
fun
using
project.
like a phone number or anything, right? So just like,
Signal has an API for that.
Cool.
I haven't used it, so I can't speak too much to it, but I just thought it was a cool little
Didn't know
I
that.
actually do
wish
that.
list item.
I actually do use that now, where I have a home assistant at my home that is basically receiving MQTT messages like every 10 minutes that gives me a status of all the services happening here at the space. And I have it configured in Home Assistant where if it misses like a 15-minute window, then I get a message in Signal telling me that something's wrong. Usually it's somebody at the space kind of like messing around, but in that capacity it's been pretty sweet. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know you had that set up. That's cool, man. Sorry.
Just a curiosity question. I know some of us have Denver Space email addresses. Is that through Proton now?
Yeah, that's all done through Proton. We probably shouldn't run our own email. I did a podcast with Jameson Lopp on that. And it's the protocol is basically a shadow of what a protocol should be. It's more of a centralized thing now. So, yeah, email sucks. Any other questions? You guys have had all kinds of questions, which has been awesome, and been very engaged. Nobody's walked out the room the entire time, and it's 70 degrees in Denver on a Saturday, so that is saying something. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll wrap up here. We'll do a field trip downstairs, show you what we've been talking about for the last hour, and then hang around for another 45 minutes, drink a beer if you want, and learn more about the space. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. If you'd like to watch the recording, this is on our YouTube channel at Space Denver, or on our Twitter at Space Denver. And yeah, thanks. We'll see you all. And we'll go in the basement here in a second, and we'll show you the server room.